Everybody, welcome back. We have our Circle K coffee, and we're just going to hop right into it.
Classic.
Since I've been back in America, and honestly, going back for years now, America has changed. It's no longer what it was when I was a kid.
True.
It's not the 90s America, it's not the 80s America, it's not even the 2000s America. America's changed drastically.
He's right.
Some people say it's the start of the Iraq War. Some people will say it's, everything's been in decline since the 2008 recession.
9/11.
But in this video, I want to talk about
I think it's been
five
since
reasons
9/11.
why America...
We peaked in like the 90s, right? And then I feel like we just had a slew of tragedies. Columbine being one of them, right? 99, and then 9/11 in 2001. And then the Iraq War was just a cascading fucking failure, right? And yeah, he's right. Then the recession in 2008. It's just been L after L after L. And he's absolutely right. I think our country is just completely, our soul has just been crushed.
It's going to get worse.
Much
And
different
I think that there's
feeling
a more
than
qualitative reason
post Cold War.
than just kind of something that can be measured, right? These are things that you sense when you're in America. And if you're a student of culture and history like I am, the things that are kind of standing out more and more these days. So I think the first thing on the list I really want to talk about is the collapse of family, because it's
Yes.
the cornerstone
Yeah.
of community, not just nation, right? Not a country, but a community, even on a small scale. Within the family dynamic, within like your lifetime existing in a family, you go through so many experiences that are shared, whether it's biological things like having a kid, just being raised, living with loved ones, watching them grow, watching them die. These experiences are things that connect us kind of through time and space. Things that have been happening for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And they connect us all, right? But especially within the community, because it's from the family and it's from the maintenance, the building, and the protection of a family that I think we originally developed concepts like honor, truth, duty, responsibility, trust, love.
Trust,
So I think if
that's a
we're
big
going to
one.
get deep about it, you can say it's the soil from which the soul grows. And good families, good familial bonds don't just make good citizens, but they make good people.
It's a good point. Duty is a good point. And think about a family, I'm not talking about just, and a family, look, listen. A family is not just your friends and people you meet. They're my family. My friends are my family. Or it's a polycule of 5. It's like a harem. Or it's whatever. Look, it's a man and it's a woman and it's children. That's the family. That's the most basic, most natural. That's the original family. And when you have this, basically all the roles and all the duties and responsibilities of what this means to be the husband and to be the wife and to be children, right? All these things have been upended. Being a man, men don't protect women anymore. Men beat the shit out of women. Men are terrible to women nowadays. Women try and act like men. Women are completely abdicating their duty as well as being good mothers, good carers, good caretakers, right? And children, my God, children don't listen to authority at all, right? Children are basically trying to act like adults. By the time you're 10, 11, 12, you've already probably smoked cigarettes, right? And drank, right? Watch porn. I mean, what's the age at which people watch porn? Like 10? All these kind of safeguards that we've had around these responsibilities of the family, each one is being shattered. Every generation we see each one of these is being shattered. And I'm hoping with this guy, I hope he talks about it a little bit, touches upon it, that all of these these set in stone kind of safeguards, like I said, that we've had around these each of these parts of the family are basically gone. And that's
with the erosion
what led
of the
to
family,
erosion
the
of the family.
destruction of a two-parent household, that family bond, those family ties and responsibilities, they're fractured. And
Yes.
how can we expect to have good citizens coming up in new generations, or this generation, because it's been in slow, steady decline. Kind of the focus on the single-parent household. You're catering to the emotions of people Because we see single parent households and we see single parents and we feel bad for them. But the fact is, when we're looking at a nation, a country, a community, right? The family serves as a function. And when that function fails, it puts the whole system in detriment. And I think another one of the key identity points that we've lost in this country, that I think is only going to get worse, comes from the job market, right? Right now, we're in a job market crisis. People have jobs, people are working, so you can look at the employment rates and you can say, oh, these are up or these are steady. But the fact is, it's a bit of a cope, because we all know that the economy is absolutely trash. We all know that people are struggling, right, to make enough just to survive. That we're a country, we're a people that are in debt, right? Even at the highest levels of our government, the country itself, we are in an immense amount of debt.
That's so funny he said that, because I literally just had a conversation with a coworker. I don't even know what we were talking about. We were talking about he asked me, what number comes after a trillion? And I said, is it septillion? I'm not even really sure, right? But then he's saying, these people have so much money. People have so much money. We have so much money. Billionaires, they're going up. Elon Musk has like $500 billion. He's going to be a trillionaire soon, probably in our lifetime. And I said, well, our country is what, $50-60 trillion in debt? And we both kind of just started chuckling. And I said, why not add another 100 trillion on there? Who cares? And he just goes, hey, we ain't paying it off. We're not paying it off. We're in so much debt. Our country is built around debt. And it just seems like nobody cares. It's just funny because we'll see how that turns out, in the grand scheme of things. Who knows? It could just not even matter at all.
But when we think of our job market, when we think of things like the gig economy, the hustle culture, and the devaluation of the very concept of a career, I think this is still one of the great self-defining parts of our lives, which is our job, our career.
What we do, what we produce.
You're a fireman, you're a plumber.
By the sweat of your brow, right?
CEO, you're a soldier. In lieu of that, now we have, people who are in positions for such short term, and I think that's the real problem. It's the lack of permanence that robs us of our identity. Because instead of saying that I am this thing, this is what I do, this is my profession, this is what my skill set is, because you don't have that anymore, because when you start making too much money or asking for too much, you're usually replaced by somebody that's new. The skill set requirements are kept low on purpose.
And the fact is, what he's saying is absolutely true, because your job used to kind of be a part of you, right? Because you would have a skill set that connected to that job, like a puzzle piece. But now it seems like all these jobs, like what he just said, all these jobs are any idiot can really do these. Like the majority of the jobs that he's taught, like entry level jobs or jobs that anybody, like people are trying to get into, even higher up jobs. Like I'm not even saying just entry level, but like even a little like above those, most people can do these jobs. And I think that it's exactly right, because they want to be able to replace you. They want to make it that any idiot can do these things, because as soon as you go and say, hey, I'm important and I have skills that you need, guess what? You can ask for more money, right? You are valuable. But if they can just go, hey, you know what? We can train a guy from India to do this job. So you're out of here. We're going to pay him half of what we paid you. Why would we give you more? And there's a multitude of different reasons why that's the way it is. But one of the big issues is that we're not, like, our society doesn't value those things, but also we're not really like fine tuning or refining people's skills. Like so much of what you go through in school is just a general like shotgun, one size fits all. And I think we need more refining in school. You need to just, it's not that everybody should just learn the same shit. It's like if you are particularly good at one thing, you should kind of like, they should fast track you to that one thing. If you're really good at mathematics, you should be fast tracked to mathematics. Listen, you forget about English. Like, obviously get the basics, but like, you forget about doing that in high school or college or any of this stuff, gen eds, any of this shit. Fuck that. just go into mathematics, go right in. Or if you're really good at English, you're really good at the humanities. Like, yeah, we don't need these. We don't need you to be taking math. Like, I was never that good at math. I was good at this. I was good at communicating. I was good at English. I was good at these types of things. But I had to take these stupid math and science courses that just never really, they just didn't click with me. I didn't like them very much. And I think we need to fine tune people's skills. What are you really good at? And that would allow the person to become more valuable and cut out all the bullshit. And thus, I think, becoming more valuable in the marketplace.
You know, you can look at unions, you can look at apprenticeships, journeymen, masters. This is something that kind of used to exist within all careers, within all jobs, right? There was always a ladder that you can climb up, and now that ladder is very short, if it exists at all. And if it does exist, usually it's an illusion, because once you start getting close, the competitive nature of America is going to have people find a way to get you out of there and replace you with somebody who won't ask questions. It won't cause trouble, won't ask for anything. I only see this really getting worse because since we've digitized jobs, we've made people more invisible, right? When we see ourselves working in a job now, where's the reliance on us, really? If we're so easily replaceable, we'll see ourselves as redundant. We'll see ourselves as replaceable.
You're just
and
a number.
If we're replaceable, in the end, we see ourselves as disposable.
Yep.
And if we're in the position like this where we can't hold on to a steady job that we're going to grow from, then that leads into the next thing, which is the housing market. And you can say it's a housing market crisis now, but I say that the instability of the market has been going on for so long. It's not just a crisis.
Just before he gets into this, on the last point, if you are somebody with a certain skill set and you are needed and you are seen as valuable by other people, that gives you purpose. And there's such a hopelessness crisis in this country where people feel like nothing matters. None of this, nihilism is just like taken over. And I think that if you are seen by other people as being, you're the only one who can do this, I think a lot of people would rise to the occasion. And people would, responsibility is seen as kind of this scary thing that I don't want to be the one who has to do that. I'm just going to pass the buck to whoever or what. But I think there's a lot of people, and I'm one of them, really. Like, if I have to do something, it's like, if it's on me and people are relying on me, I feel way more compelled to do something than if it's just like, you're just a number and we can replace you tomorrow. That's why your Taco Bell order sucks and is never right, right? Because freaking AI could do it, right? A dog could do it. But if it's something really really specified that you can't, nobody else can do but this guy. Well, I shouldn't say just that guy, but let's say a select number of people. You're way more valuable, and you feel less hopeless. You feel less nihilistic. You feel like you have a purpose of, I'm doing this thing, and there's only me who could do it, and I need to do it. Just thoughts.
It's not just something that happened because of a little bit of reckless spending. This is something that's been going on a long time. This is something that's done on purpose. We all know that, the stock market and cryptocurrency can be manipulated. Why can't another asset class, like real estate, be manipulated as well? And I think with the introduction of companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, buying up such huge portions of residential real estate, so much to the point that there's a shortage in housing. And because we've seen the quality of labor, the quality of construction quality suffer, right? A lot of the homes that are coming up now, are really not just up to par to what they used to be just 30, 40 years ago. Some of the best houses that I'll see when I go into people's houses are usually going to be ones that are 100 years old.
Yeah.
The house that I just bought has been recently renovated. It was built in 1939.
Yep.
I love this house, right? This is a stable house. And I find myself very fortunate for being able to own a house, because I know that a lot of people aren't. I know that for a lot of people now, owning a house is a dream, and it's a distant dream. And the old saying is that a person is meant to be the king or queen of their castle. But what happens to a society when people no longer have the ability to have their castle? Growing up, getting a job, getting a house, starting a family, this used to be kind of a fundamental part of the progression to reach the American dream, the progression of life. In any culture, that would be it. But now, the requirements to get into the job market, the requirements to actually buy a house, to get a mortgage, are so high that it's practically priced out multiple generations of people at this point. And the question is that going to get better? I think the answer is obviously no. There's no way it can get better, and it's not meant to get better, and that's what I'm saying. The price of housing isn't.
Real quick, he mentioned BlackRock and Vanguard buying up all these houses. One of the things I think about with this whole thing, because they buy up just like whole blocks of housing, right? It's to artificially increase the pricing of their other assets, right? But at some point, you have to think, they have to sell at some point, right? I mean, these are liabilities that they have on their hand. Like these houses turn into liabilities. They're just eating up money, right? If you're not selling them, they're just burning a hole in your pocket. And I guess maybe these holding funds have so much money that they can do this forever. Can they do it forever? I don't know, but because that's a big thing that people talk about is that like, yeah, Vanguard and BlackRock bought up all these houses. It's like, okay, well, if they have like, $1 trillion in housing liabilities, right? They have to upkeep those. They have to maintain those. Or I guess maybe they don't. I mean, maybe they just let them go to shit and just say we're holding on to them and we'll wait out the market. I don't really know. But I feel like there has to be a point at which they're going to try and sell them, right? To try and make something back on them, a profit.
Inflated, yes. But because it's inflated, does that mean that it's going to come down? Is the value of the dollar going to go up? That's only relative to the value of other currencies. The real value of homes is much higher than it actually is because of the devaluation of the dollar. When you only see 20, 30% increase in home prices over the past few years, a lot of that is being artificially suppressed, and by high interest rates. People look to the new administration coming in and saying that, they're going to cut interest rates. Oh, it's hot. But the fact is, once we cut interest rates, a lot of people who've been sitting on the sidelines are going to flood the market. And it's going to increase demand. And with the increase of demand, people are going to be charging higher prices for their homes. So we're going to see the rates. So we're going to see home prices go up again and again and again, just like we saw a few years ago. It's the up down, but it's a trend. At no point in history has it reversed. You might get like a flash crash where, opportunistic people with the means, to act and get homes can get homes, but it's going to be really just what you're talking about, what, 5-10% decrease in prices. Once the value of these homes is realized, then attaining a home is no longer just a dream, it's a fantasy. It's an absolute fantasy because at that point, the requirements to actually get a mortgage is going to be what? If you have an income of $200,000 or something like higher maybe? So what happens when you have a population and they can't own a home? There's no place for them. If they're perpetually renting, your dream of starting a family, your dream of what life is supposed to be.
I guess that was kind of the answer to what I was saying. Or do they just like trickle it into the economy at the perfect time? And then only certain people who have enough, artificially increase the price of it, you trickle it in at the right time. I guess only the right people can buy the houses at the time. And the rest will just be renters.
Has fundamentally changed and it's been taken away from you. And the kind of resentment that comes with that has consequences that have to be paid eventually. Right? And I think people are very tired of seeing people at the upper end of things, have not just financial control, but moral control over their lives. Rise up and say anything about any of these institutions and count yourself a traitor, say you're not patriotic, or they call you a communist, or they call you a fascist. There's a whole bunch of descriptors that are going to be thrown on you whenever you challenge the system, whenever you point out its flaws. The fact is, if you're an American or you're in the greater West, you're suffering. You're suffering and you shouldn't be. So you've eroded the value and the concept of family. Right? You've taken away people's ability to identify within the community by whatever job they usually would be. And now you price them out of home ownership. So this leads into the fourth thing, which is lack of ownership. And I think that this is one of the most defining aspects of this generation.
Everything's
the
a
lack
subscription.
of ownership. And we remember the WEF said something on the panel saying, you'll own nothing and be happy. We've moved into that era. That's not something far away in Germany. That's something here, right? And everything is rented, everything's leased. We're a country that's in debt. There's student loans.
One of the, I heard that, we've heard that a lot. You'll own nothing and you're like it. But one of the things I think of is that I think there's actually a lot of people who in the back of their minds like that idea. That sounds like crazy to say, but there's a lot of people who don't want to have to deal with the responsibility of upkeep of things. And I know people who don't own cars. You know, like they don't even, like, people don't even get their license anymore because they don't want to go and renew it. I don't even drive. I don't care to drive. What am I going to go? Where am I going to go? They don't have, I don't want a house. I'm going to have to pay a mortgage. I'm going to have to upkeep. I'm going to mow the lawn. Like, God, man, this is going to be a lot of upkeep. I'd rather somebody else owned it, let me live in it, and they just do the upkeep and they do all this shit that I don't want to have to deal with it. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are like that. They're living in this kind of transient state where they're just like, hey, I'm just here for 80 years and then I'm gone. Why don't you just take care of all my expense, all my basic necessities of housing, food, and all this stuff, like, and I don't have to deal with it. I can see why there's some people who might be on board with that. It sounds crazy, you know, you own nothing and like it. People, oh my God, you own nothing and like it. What do you mean I'll own nothing? It's like, no, you'll have stuff, but I'll own it and you'll just use it. And there's a lot of people who I think they find that attractive. And there are people who are going to probably fall into that.
Whether it's mortgages, whether it's car loans, car notes, they call it now, which I don't know why. You know, we're a country without ownership, and that has so many consequences. Because if you can't own these things, then you own no place in your country.
That's true.
You own no part of America. America is no longer for you. Your country, your nation, your community isn't for you. So what responsibility do you have?
It's a transient state, right? It's a transient state.
You know,
I'm only here for a little bit. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
The military very low. If people have no skin in the game, if people have no way to measure themselves or define themselves, why would they put their lives on the line for that country?
They won't.
Why would they? So this isn't exactly a left or right thing, and you can look at it as a classist thing, which it absolutely is. But the fact is you have a vast majority, a super majority of the people who've been absolutely disenfranchised. They've been dispossessed, they've been displaced. And the consequence of displacement is going to come eventually. And we can talk as much as we want about population decline and things like that. But you know, people exist within a system. Once quality of life goes up and you start putting economic restrictions on people's lives, or you put an economic governor on people's lives that stop them from progressing like they normally would, there's going to be a crash, right? There's going to be an adjustment, and that can be from revolution, you know, that can be from voting, the rise of populism. That's what this is really coming from.
Yeah.
You know, the rise of populism.
That's why Donald Trump
a
became
response to
so
all
popular.
these things, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Because I think it's a natural part of that biological mechanism of in being a human to have some kind of say, right? To not just be led and guided, but to actually want to participate and want to be part of something, want to have a feeling of consequence in your lives.
Yeah.
You know, that all the work that you've done actually means something. You know, not just to your direct family, but you know, to the if you're living within, you know, a community, a country, a nation, a state, you know, that the work that you put in has meaning. In the military, we say that every person is a cog in a big machine, and is like, you know, horrible as that is to hear in the first part, because it makes you feel small. It only takes one cog to mess up, to throw off the machine.
But exactly.
And there is a bit of
if it's not precise, right, it will screw up. And I think that there's like, if there's no like he just said, consequences, right? Like, people don't like the idea of consequences, like, oh, something bad happening to me. But the thing is that if you don't have consequences, then did it really fucking matter? Did what you do actually matter? No. So it's like, if we want to live in a society where like consequences are gone, well, then nothing you do matters, right? And there's no bad or good. There's no negative. It's all just this kind of gray, neutral, and everything just feels like blah. And that's where you get nihilism. That's where you get hopelessness, is that everything is just like blah.
You know, they used to say bullets don't fly without supply. And it's a silly thing, but there is truth to it. You know, everything serves a function. Everybody serves a function.
Yeah.
When you have too many people, and when you've taken away the importance of the jobs, and you've taken away the importance of identity, you know, within jobs and within family.
Yep.
You've taken the ownership away. You know, you force people to react. And what we're starting to see now is people reacting, whether it's riots, populist movements. Now we're seeing things happening to CEOs out there. You have a powder keg, right? You have a pressure cooker, steam's leaking out, and it can only get worse, really, because there's no intention. There's no intention to make things better, because to make things better would require some damage to the economy. It would require a loss in profits.
Yeah.
And this is a country that's controlled by corporations. It's what America has become. It's a country for profit. And without that ownership, I think that comes with the last thing, and that there's no common narrative anymore. There's no common narrative on what it is to be an American. And I think that we're starting to get this in other cultures as well. But I think America is kind of the tip of the spear with this one. The absolute segmentation of populations into competing ethno groups. And we're really starting to see different ideologies canonized into religion. The groups, they balkanize themselves and they separate themselves from the greater society. It's a focus on the hyphenated American. To the point where there's no solidarity. There's easy manipulation and corruption because we're moving back into kind of a tribal big man culture.
And one of the reasons why people like to do that, to try and reduce you to your identity, is because that those things are easily controlled. You can put up a figure to say, hey, I'm for X American. This is what we need to do. But you can't, something like a religion, that's hard for people to do, to come up, because people have something that they can kind of, they can look at and say, wait, you're not following this correctly, right? Wait, that's not lining up with what was written 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years, whatever, thousands of years ago. You're going against that. But people nowadays can rely on these arbitrary kind of distinctions of your identity, and they can say, well, I'm one of you, you need to follow me, and I'll tell you what to do. But there's no litmus, there's no nothing we can rely on to say, wait, is this what we should be doing, or is this not what we should be doing? And there's going to be a lot of people who just say, well, he's one of me and he's saying he's for me, so I'm going to go with it. And it's easy to just fall into that with these kind of new, like he's saying, these new identity groups. It's easy to just fall into it and just follow it blindly because he's you and you're him and you guys relate to each other, right? Based off of these shared identity, right? It's getting dangerous, man. It gets dangerous.
Country of common consensus. And that could just be because our population has gotten so big that the idea of a single body governing almost 400 million people is ludicrous, because they're
That's
very different people that might have existed at one point when we had a common narrative, and you can say that to say this is ethnocentric, but the reality is America, you can say it's been ethnically diverse, and that is true to a degree, but mostly European, and European people share a strong
common
historical
history,
parallel with each other, whether that be religious, philosophical,
and religious.
The foundations of their civilization are usually rooted in, the Middle East or the Mediterranean, and that makes to a very, unique culture. So the early colonies, was a very unique culture, and there was a story, and it started, with settlers and pilgrims, and it was a time of binary, a time of good and evil in the narrative, the grand narrative. And I think with, if I remember right, and don't hate on me, but postmodernism really came the destruction of the grand narrative, right? The focus on the individual story and the power dynamic. And I think that this has really given us a loss of sense of self. I remember being in Giza and looking at the pyramids, right? Looking at this colossal architecture.
Giza.
And being like, for thousands of years, you had families who walked by there and said, our ancestors built that. They did that. They made this thing.
Yeah.
Or like growing up in the 90s, everyone had a relative who fought in World War II, fought in World War I. And even the stories of battles, that having our families all had skin in the game really kind of gave us, it added into that.
That's a good point about the structure of the pyramids. It's like, that's one of the reasons why I feel like America, specifically America, doesn't have these structures anymore like this, any of these grand structures. We don't make monuments anymore because it does solidify a history and a culture throughout time. It's harder to get rid of something that's actually physical and real. You have to blow it up. You have to actually take, you have to take your time out of your day to get rid of these things. But you can look at, like he's saying, people throughout thousands of years can look at these things and say, my ancestors built that, and this is what it means, and this is what it's solidified in history, and it's here in person. But if you don't have that, ideas come and go, right? We can easily change those things. That's why I feel like that's a good point. We don't really make monuments anymore because we don't want that
narrative. That common story of who we are.
We want the narrative to be changed.
We don't have that anymore. You can say, yes, it's a melting pot. And while I do agree with this, I think the narrative of what America was has died. I don't think that we can go back to that. I think, I'm someone who says, get what you can out of America, essentially harvest what you can from here and go somewhere else. Because this place isn't built for individual success in kind of a family way, unless you're on the higher end of earners. But I mean, you can get that other places, especially if you have USD. When I hear so many people immigrating to America and succeeding in a way that Americans usually don't, I think that the narrative has shifted. And America being a nation of immigrants, right? The idea of the 13 colonies, the idea of kind of this Eurocentric American identity, I mean, it's just gone now. I mean, it exists in pockets, and I mean, it's romanticized, and it's, my family played a part in that for hundreds of years, and it's hard to let go. But every country's like that now, and we're just individuals, so we can rage on the internet about it. But the fact is that,
and we will.
The story of what it is to be an American has changed. But who does it belong to? Does it belong to the immigrant? Does it belong to like a person born in America? Does it belong to the corporations? Because at this point now, I think it just kind of exists. It just kind of belongs to corporations and to politicians. And it's sad to say, because there's so many people who love this country so much, and so many people who, for generations, have really paid into the system and have really done everything they can for America to become what it has become, just to be kind of usurped by corporate interest or by lobbyists. And of course, like I said, there's going to be a consequence to this. So these are really the 5 reasons that I think America is going to get worse. Because there's no answer to these things. There's no way that you can reverse these things and set them in a positive direction. But there's a large amount of people who are going to be left out. There's a large amount of people who are being ignored. And ignored people who are in debt, ignored people who are pressured, are dangerous people. And eventually things are going to come to a head. And honestly, I don't have a side to stand on anymore.
Well, the person with nothing, right, is the most dangerous person. The person who has nothing to lose. The homeless bum you walk by who's sleeping in his own shit, that guy's pretty dangerous. You should watch out for him. But I think they really want a lot of people to feel that way, because it will increase the chance that people lashing out. And if people lash out in kind of a grand way, well, then other people can come in and say, well, I have the solution. Here's the solution. And then people will be begging for the chaos to stop. And they'll take whatever solution that the elites give you. I think that's a big part of what's going on here.
And I knew doesn't exist anymore. And it's never going to exist anymore. People who originally immigrated to America for pursuing a better life. And that's why I say, capitalize on capitalism while you can. And get out and find your happiness, find your best life. Because I don't believe it's in America anymore. If you can afford it, it's here. But it takes a lot to afford. The kind of the traditional American dream in America just is too expensive for most people. Well, that's all I've got to say today. Any comments, questions, criticisms? Throw in the comments section. It's been real lively lately, and I appreciate you stopping by.
That was a good video. I'll put the link down in the description. It just showed up on my recommended. These videos just come to me. It's just fate. These videos, God chose them to come to my recommended feed and for me to check them out and watch them with you all, right? It was a very good video, kind of depressing, but I totally agree that there's a lot of issues in America, and we are destroying a lot of the solidification of things that we had in past years. all those things are based, the family unit, he talked about owning things. We talked about these kind of safeguards we had up are basically being eroded. And I think he's absolutely right. We're going to see people who, in the upcoming years, we're going to see people who have nothing left to lose because they don't have anything. They're going to start lashing out. And the response to that, that's something we have to keep an eye on. The response to that, the solution to the chaos that you want to stop so badly, that's going to be something scary. We saw this with the Patriot Act in, after 9/11. What a scary thing that is. And it's still a thing. That was a solution to terrorism. So we'll see what the future holds, but I'm very scared for the future, and I hope we as Americans can figure this out. And I don't know. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give me a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and I'll see you all next time.